Hello again and welcome back to our course on Excel 2019 Advanced. In this section, we're going to continue to look at financial functions, and we're going to start here by looking at another personal financial function. The function we're going to look at is the FV, or future value function, and it's more or less the opposite of the PMT function. What the FV function basically does is to work out the future value of a saving or investment based on payments made over a period of time. Although we're starting this section with the FV function, I in general like to combine it with some other topics that we've covered earlier on in the course and head towards making a pretty useful retirement planner. So let's start with the FV function. I'm going to put the FV of a saving or investment in C8 of this worksheet. So it's equals FV. And you can see the arguments there. Let's bring up the functions arguments dialog. And you should be pretty familiar with what all of these terms are now. First off, there is the rate, and the rate is going to be the value in cell C2. Now that's an annual rate, and I'm going to work on the principle that this is a monthly saving. So I'm actually going to put in there C2 divided by 12. NPER is the total number of payment periods, so that's going to be cell C3. The monthly payment is cell C4. The PV is the present value, so that's going to be in cell C5. And then the type is going to be 1 or 0, so that's cell C6. So that's my FV function. Let's do click to confirm. And of course I get a value of 0 because we haven't added any values into the worksheet as yet. Let's put in an interest rate of 3% over a period of 10 years, so that's 120 months, and a payment of $200. Now don't forget, this is a payment, so this is going to be minus 200. Let's assume we're starting with nothing, and we'll go for the default type of payment, which is 0, which means payment at the end of the period. That gives us an FV for the saving of $27,948.28. So as far as that goes, it's fine, but what I would like to do is turn this into a retirement planner. If I were developing a retirement planner, generally speaking, I would ask someone, what is your date of birth and what age do you plan to retire? And then work out, based on a monthly payment, the value of a pension fund that had been accumulated by that retirement date. Now clearly the amount, the future value of that particular type of saving will depend on how many months there are between the time that the savings plan starts and that retirement date. So what we really need Excel to calculate is the number of periods from now to the date that somebody is going to retire. So let's add a couple of extra rows into this worksheet. And I'm going to add into the top here date of birth and retirement age into cells B2 and B3. So the calculation we have to do here is that given a date of birth and a retirement age, we need to work out how many months between today and the retirement date of the potential client. Now, first let's work out what the retirement date is. I'm going to put the retirement date here in cell E2 as a temporary measure. Generally speaking, when I'm developing more complex formulae, I do tend to do them a step at a time, and I do tend to use part of the workbook as a scratch area and then delete the work afterwards. I'm going to work out the retirement date and store it temporarily in cell E2. Now let's suppose that this person's date of birth is December the 24th, 1969, and they want to retire at the age of 55. Now the way that I add 55 years, and you should remember how to do this from earlier on in the course. So there we are. So it's basically the same date as C2, but I'm adding C3 years to the year. So that's going to give me a date of December the 24th, 2024, which looks about right to me. Now the number of months between today and that date is going to go in here in cell C5. And again, you should be able to remember how to do that from earlier on in the course. So the result of that is actually 70 months. So what I do now to remove my temp working is to go to E2 and take from the formula bar that function there, and I'm going to just highlight it and copy it to my clipboard, Control C, and then I'm going to cancel, clicking the red cross. And then I'm going to go down to the NPER, so cell C5, and in that formula where we have the reference to cell E2, I'm just going to replace it with my function that I have stored on the clipboard. So Control V to paste in there and press enter. And then what that means is that we can then safely delete and clear everything from cell E2. So now I have a working retirement planner. If somebody comes to me with a very different date of birth, not only do I find out how many months until they retire, but I get a future value for them based on their agreed monthly payment. Now I saved this particular example as Personal Financial Functions 2 in the Course Files folder. One other thing to mention here, and that is to do with PV. Let's suppose that before somebody started saving for retirement, they already had a certain amount of money in their pension pot and wanted to include it in here as a starting point. Of course, remember, in that starting pot, if it's invested at the same rate of interest, that will grow in value as well. So let's assume this particular saver already has $100,000 as a starting pot, and that would go into PV as a negative value. So that's an amount going into the pension pot, and that would increase the future value of the pension pot to just over $335,000. So it's a good point to remember when you are doing calculations such as this one, that the amounts that are being paid or have been paid are recorded as negative numbers. The future value, which is the amount coming back, is a negative number. Now I just wanted to talk about two other personal financial functions, so I'll point you at the help for those. One of those is the RRI function. And with the RRI function, what you do is give the starting value of an investment and a future value of an investment, the number of periods that the investment has been in place, and it returns the equivalent interest rate for the growth of an investment. So if you have savings, the RRI function will tell you what the equivalent interest rate is. Another very useful one in the personal finance arena is the P duration function. And with the P duration function, you basically say, I have an investment and I would like it to grow to this amount of money. And I can get this interest rate, how long it will take, what will the duration of the investment be. Again, that's a very useful function, and with both of those functions there are examples, and I strongly suggest that you work through a quick example of these yourself. In the next section, we're going to turn our attention to professional financial functions. That's what we're going to cover next. I'll see you then.